I saw the red flag. I saw it the very first night and I walked right into it anyway. You think you know what a monster looks like, but Park Mi-sung doesn't look like a monster. He looks like a sanctuary. But that's the thing about the dark. It only feels safe until you realize you can't find the light again. Before we dive deeper into my world, tell me, if you were in my shoes, would you have trusted him so quickly, knowing the danger around him? If this story is pulling at your heart already, hit subscribe, like the video, and drop in the comments where you're watching from. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. The first time someone threatened me in Seoul, Mi-sung didn't raise his voice. He just stood in front of me, a wall of expensive wool and cold intent, and the world went quiet. For a girl from Baltimore who'd spent her life looking over her shoulder, that kind of protection felt like a miracle. I felt safe. I felt chosen. But then I saw the aftermath. I saw what happened to the man who dared to look at me the wrong way. Mi-sung didn't just protect me, he dismantled the man's life. He didn't do it for justice, and he didn't do it for me. He did it because he owns me. In his world, you don't touch what belongs to the boss. And now, standing in this freezing rain outside his family's estate, I realize the truth. I'm not his wife. I'm his most prized possession. And he doesn't let go of what's his. The limousine is idling behind me, its headlights cutting through the downpour like two cold, judging eyes. My mother-in-law just threw my bags into the mud and slammed the door. I have exactly 60 minutes before Mi-sung's plane lands. 60 minutes to decide if I run for the gate or wait for the man who might be more dangerous than the family that just kicked me out. The clock is ticking, and for the first time, I'm terrified of what happens when he finds me. The rain is soaking through my coat, but my mind is back in January. The coldest winter Seoul had seen in a decade. I was supposed to be a ghost in this house, a maid, someone who prepared tea and disappeared before the real people woke up. That morning in the library, I thought I was alone. Then I saw him. Mi-sung was sitting in the dark, a glass of amber liquid in his hand, his eyes fixed on nothing. Most people flinch when a light turns on. He didn't even blink. He just looked at me, really looked at me, and I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. "You're the new one," he said. His English was perfect, but his tone was heavy, like he was carrying the weight of the entire city on his shoulders. I should have left the tray and walked away, but I didn't. I stepped closer. Every step I took toward him was a step away from my old life, away from safety. The air in the room changed. It became thick, charged with a tension that made my skin crawl and my heart race at the same time. "You shouldn't be here at this hour," I whispered. "I shouldn't be a lot of things, Sarah," he replied. He knew my name. I hadn't told him. That was the second red flag. He had already looked into me. He knew about my debts, my mother back home, my theology degree. He knew I was vulnerable. And instead of letting me be, he reached out and touched my wrist. His skin was burning hot against the winter air. "The house is full of snakes," he warned, his grip tightening just enough to let me know he wasn't letting go. "Stay close to me and they won't bite." I believed him. I leaned into the danger because it felt like warmth. But now, as I look at the dark windows of the mansion, I realize the snakes didn't bite because they were waiting for him to leave. Now he's 30 miles away, and I'm standing in the mud, realizing that the only thing more frightening than his family is the look on his face when he finds out they touched me. By February, the library wasn't just a room I cleaned. It was the place where my life started to blur. I was still Sarah from Baltimore, still the girl with the theology degree she couldn't use and a mountain of debt that kept her awake at night. But when I was with Mi-sung, I felt like something else, something valuable. One morning, around 5, I found him in the kitchen. He wasn't the boss then. He was just a man sitting at a marble counter, looking at his hands like they didn't belong to him. He started talking about his father, how the empire was built on ports, blood, and secrets that never saw the light of day. He told me he never wanted it. He said it with this exhaustion that made my heart ache. "Did you ever try to leave?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He looked at me for a long time. "The exit from this life isn't a door, Sarah. It's a cliff." I should have heard that and run. I should have realized he was telling me that if I stayed, I'd be standing on that cliff right next to him. But I didn't see the danger. I saw a man who was lonely in a house full of people. I romanticized his struggle. I called his possessiveness protection and his silence depth. I was so hungry to be seen that I didn't care if the person looking at me was covered in shadows. April came with a cold rain that smelled like wet stone and change. By then, the invisible maid was gone. I was something the family couldn't ignore anymore, and the friction was starting to burn. His mother wouldn't even look at me when I walked through the halls. She'd speak in Korean, her voice sharp as a razor, and even without a translation, I knew she was calling me a stain on their floor. Mi-sung didn't care, or at least he acted like he didn't. He asked me to marry him in that same kitchen at 5 in the morning. There was no diamond, no flowers, just him standing there, looking like he hadn't slept in days, asking if I'd be his wife. He said he wanted to ask without props because he needed to know I was saying yes to him, not the money or the power. I said yes before he could even finish the sentence. It wasn't a fairy tale. It was a desperate grab for a life where I finally mattered. For the first time, I was being chosen by someone who had every option in the world, and he was choosing the black girl from Baltimore who used to scrub his floors. I thought being chosen was the same thing as being loved. I didn't realize that in a Mafia family, being chosen is the same as being marked. His mother's silence wasn't a surrender, it was a countdown. And I was too caught up in the romance to hear the clock ticking. There was a Tuesday in October, about 8 months into our marriage, when the world I had built on hope finally felt real. I got a call from Baltimore. My mother had been rushed to the hospital. Pneumonia. She was already weak, and the bills were piling up faster than she could breathe. I didn't go to the main part of the house. I went back to the east wing, my old wing, the maid's wing. I sat on the floor in a hallway that smelled like industrial cleaner and old wood, and I cried. I didn't make a sound. When you grow up in a house where every penny is counted, you learn that even tears are a luxury you can't afford. Mi-sung was in a meeting. It wasn't just any meeting. It was with men who looked like they'd kill you for breathing too loud. Men whose names I wasn't allowed to know. I figured I wouldn't see him for hours, maybe days. But 40 minutes later, the door at the end of the hall opened. Mi-sung walked in. He was still in his three-piece suit, looking every bit like the man who ran this city. He didn't ask why I was there. He didn't tell me to get up. He just sat down on that cold floor right next to me. For 2 hours, he didn't say a word. He just put his hand over mine and stayed. When I woke up from a restless sleep later that night, everything was handled. He'd booked a flight for me. He'd paid every hospital bill. He'd done it all without making me feel like a charity case. That was the moment I stopped being afraid of the shadows. I thought, this is it. This is what it means to be loved by a man who can move mountains. I thought I was standing on solid ground. I had no idea that while he was holding my hand on that floor, he was already hiding the one secret that would eventually burn everything down. People think I found Sarah by accident. They see a powerful man who fell for a girl from a different world and call it a miracle. It wasn't a miracle. It was a choice. The first time I saw her in the library, I already knew the exact amount of debt she carried. I knew about the theology degree she couldn't use and the mother she was trying to save. My world is full of people who want something, people who smile while they hide a knife. I didn't need a wife. I needed an anchor. I needed someone who had no ties to the families in Seoul, someone whose loyalty I could own because I was the only one offering her a way out. I watched her for weeks before I ever spoke to her. I watched the way she moved through the house like she was trying to be invisible. She was honest in a way that felt dangerous to me. But then it shifted. The plan was to keep her safe and keep her quiet, but sitting on that floor with her in October, that wasn't part of the strategy. Seeing her break didn't make me feel powerful. It made me feel human. And that's the most dangerous thing a man in my position can be. I realized then that I wasn't just protecting her from my family. I was protecting her from the version of me that had already decided she was a piece on a chessboard. I've spent my life building exits, but when I look at her, I realize I've finally found the one room I never want to leave. But to keep her in it, I have to keep lying. I have to keep meeting Jaiwon. I have to keep playing the part of the dutiful son, or Sarah won't just lose her home, she'll lose her life. Do you think she's making the right choice by keeping him close, even after all the secrets she's uncovered? Or is love clouding her judgment? If this twist is keeping you on the edge, make sure to subscribe and like, because every chapter only gets more intense from here. My mother doesn't see Sarah as a woman. She sees her as an error in the family lineage, a stain on the pure legacy my father bled to build. To the Park family, I haven't just married outside our culture. I've invited a witness into the bloodiest rooms of our history. So I do what I was born to do. I negotiate. I started meeting Jaiwon in secret. Not because I want her. My heart is locked in that East Wing with a girl from Baltimore who still smells like vanilla and hope. But because Jaiwon is a shield. If the world thinks I'm considering a proper alliance, they leave Sarah alone. They see her as a temporary distraction instead of a permanent threat. Every time I sit across from Jaiwon in a private lounge, I feel like a traitor. I watch the clock, counting the minutes until I can go home and pretend I haven't been bargaining for my wife's life with another woman's name. I tell myself it's for her protection. I tell myself she wouldn't understand the cold math of this world. But every time I look into Sarah's eyes and see that unwavering trust, the lie feels like a slow-acting poison. I'm trading her peace for my silence, and I'm starting to wonder if the cost is too high. If she ever found out, she wouldn't see the strategy. She'd only see a man who wasn't man enough to choose her out in the open. Being the head of this organization means I have to be the most cold-blooded person in the room. But when I walk through my own front door, I'm just a man watching his wife wither in a garden that was never meant for her. I see Sarah trying so hard to belong. I see her learning the language, bowing to people who don't deserve to stand in her shadow, and swallowing the insults my cousins hurl at her in the halls. It kills me. It makes me want to burn this estate to the ground. But I have to stay silent. If I defend her too loudly, my enemies will see her as my ultimate weakness. And in my world, once they find your weakness, they use it to destroy you. I realize today that my protection is starting to look a lot like a cage. I'm keeping her in the dark about Jaiwon, about the shipment deals, and about the fact that my mother is actively looking for a way to have her removed the second I turn my back. I'm gaslighting the person I love most because I think the truth is too heavy for her to carry. She asked me today why I seemed so distant. I told her it was just business. I lied to her face while my heart was screaming to tell her everything. I'm realizing that I might save her life, but I'm losing her soul in the process. The gap between us is widening, and the clock is ticking toward a disaster I can't negotiate my way out of. I'm sitting in a boardroom that smells like expensive cigars and old blood, watching a digital screen hidden in the palm of my hand. This deal, this is the one. This is the shipment that finally unties the Park family from the ports and the illegal imports. It's the exit I've been building for 2 years. But then, my phone vibrates. I pull up the live security feed of the estate. I watch my mother. She's standing on the front steps, her face a mask of cold fury. She's throwing Sarah's bags into the mud like they're trash. She's screaming things in Korean that I know are meant to strip Sarah of her dignity. And Sarah, she's just standing there, soaking wet, alone. I have to sign this paper. If I walk out now, the deal collapses. The rivals will move in. My family's safety and Sarah's safety is tied to this pen, but my chest feels like it's being crushed. I look at the clock. 3 minutes. I just need 3 more minutes to finalize the terms and secure the legal transition. Those were the longest 3 minutes of my life. I signed the document with a hand that wouldn't stop shaking and bolted for the door. I pushed the driver aside and took the wheel myself. The engine roaring through the Seoul traffic like it was screaming for me. I didn't care about the millions on the table. I just kept seeing her face on that tiny screen. I was 3 minutes behind them. 3 minutes that might have cost me everything I was actually trying to save. I find her at the end of the driveway. She's a dark silhouette against the white stone, looking small and broken under the weight of the downpour. I stop the car, leave the engine running, and grab the umbrella from the passenger seat. When I reach her, I don't say anything at first. I just tilt the umbrella toward her side. I let the rain soak my own shoulder, my own expensive suit, because I deserve to be cold. I deserve the sting of the storm for what I put her through. Sarah, I say, just her name. The weight of it feels different today. She doesn't look at me. Her eyes are fixed on the gate, on the road that leads away from this house and away from me. I can feel the distance between us, and it's wider than the driveway. It's a canyon I don't know how to bridge. You should come inside, I say, my voice sounding hollow even to me. Your family just threw me out, she says, into the rain in front of everyone. I know. And you let them. That's the knife. You let them. She doesn't know about the deal. She doesn't know I was buying her a future. All she knows is that when she was being humiliated, I wasn't there. I didn't let them, I say, my jaw tightening. I was 3 minutes behind them. But as the words leave my mouth, I realize how pathetic they sound. In her world, love doesn't wait 3 minutes. Love doesn't negotiate with shipping manifests. I've been so busy playing the boss that I forgot how to be her husband. She looks at me then, and the pain in her expression is sharper than any bullet. I've spent my life protecting my empire, but standing here in the rain, I realize I'm losing the only territory that actually matters. When he let his mother humiliate her just to finish a business deal, how would you have reacted? Could you forgive him, or would your heart finally break like hers? Comment heart if you felt her pain, or danger if you sense the storm coming. And don't forget to subscribe and share your thoughts, because the story isn't over yet, and the next chapter will leave you speechless. The rain is hitting the pavement like 1,000 tiny needles, but I don't even feel the cold anymore. I just feel the weight of a name I was never supposed to know. I know about Jaewon, I say. It's a small sentence, but it stops him cold. For the first time since I've known him, Mi-sung looks like he's been hit. Not by a bullet, but by a truth he thought was buried under layers of cold business and secrets. Sarah, he starts, but I cut him off. Don't tell me it's not what I think. I heard the whispers. 4 secret dinners while I was sitting in that mansion trying to figure out how to be the perfect wife. While I was bowing to your mother and learning a language that was only ever used to insult me, you were planning a life with her. I see his hands ball into fists at his sides. He's the most powerful man in the city, but right now, he looks like he's drowning in his own silence. I was 3 minutes late today, Sarah, but I've been trying to save you for months, he says, his voice cracking in a way I've never heard. Save me? I let out a laugh that tastes like salt and rain. You didn't save me, Mi-sung. You just gave me a gold-plated cage and left the door open for the woman you were actually supposed to marry. You built an exit for yourself, and you didn't even have the heart to tell me I was just a placeholder. The look in his eyes isn't anger. It's a devastating kind of regret. But regret doesn't dry my clothes, and it doesn't fix the hole in my chest. He steps closer, ignoring the fact that I'm pulling away. He doesn't touch me. He knows he's lost that right, but his presence is like a physical weight against the storm. I met her to end the blood feud, Sarah. not to start a life with her. Then the truth comes spilling out, as cold and unrelenting as the rain. He tells me things I never could have guessed. How Jaewon's family held the keys to the very ports he was trying to leave behind. He wasn't having romantic dinners. He was negotiating a payoff. He was transferring millions into her name so she would marry a rival heir, effectively ending a war that's been going on since before we were born. "I couldn't tell you," he whispers, the rain running down his face like tears he won't let himself shed. "If my mother knew I was giving away the family's leverage just to protect a girl from Baltimore, they wouldn't have just kicked you out. They would have made sure you never walked out of that gate." I want to believe him. Every part of me wants to believe he was playing this grand game of chess just to keep me safe. But then I remember the months of silence. I remember feeling like I was losing my mind because he wouldn't just talk to me. "You sacrificed my trust to save my life," I say, the realization hitting me like a physical blow. "But what's a life without the man I thought you were?" He looks at me, totally unguarded and desperate. "It was the only way to get you out of the crosshairs. I chose you, Sarah. I've been choosing you every single day I lied to them." The front door of the mansion creaks open again. It's not a cousin or a maid this time. It's her. Mi-sung's mother steps out onto the porch, shielded by a massive black umbrella held by a silent guard. She looks down at me like I'm something the wind blew in, something she needs to sweep away before it ruins the porch. She speaks in that low, sharp Korean I've spent 2 years memorizing. She doesn't use my name. She never has. She offers me a choice, a bank account number written on a thick piece of cardstock. It's enough money to go back to Baltimore, buy my mother a house, and never have to look at a map of Seoul again. "Go," she says in English, her voice like cracking ice. "You are the shadow, he is the sun. You will only ever be his eclipse. You make him weak." I look at her, and for the first time in 2 years, I don't feel small. I think about my theology degree and the nature of grace. I realize she's not protecting a legacy. She's protecting a cage. She's terrified that I'm the only thing her son loves that she can't control. "I was the maid," I say, stepping closer to the porch, my voice steady despite the shivering. "I know where all the dirt is hidden in this house. You think money can buy my silence? You think I'm here for your bank account?" I lean in, close enough to see the cracks in her perfect mask. "I'm not leaving because you told me to, and I'm not staying for the money. I'm staying because I'm the only thing in this world your son actually chose for himself. And that kills you, doesn't it?" The look on her face is worth more than any check. I turn my back on her before she can respond, walking back into the rain toward the man who's still standing there, watching the woman he loves finally find her teeth. The gate is right there, maybe 50 yards away. Beyond it is the road, a taxi, and a flight that could take me away from the blood, the lies, and the 3-minute excuses. I start walking. Every step feels like I'm pulling my feet out of lead. I can hear Mi-sung behind me. He's not calling out anymore. He's just there, standing in the downpour without an umbrella, watching me decide if our marriage was a beautiful mistake or a life sentence. I think about the power between us. I think about how he looked at me in the library and how he sat on the floor with me in October. Was he just a predator who picked a girl with no options because she was easy to keep? Or was he a man who found the only person in the world who didn't want a piece of his crown? The limousine headlights are blinding. They represent safety, a clean break. If I get in that car, I go back to being Sarah from Baltimore. I go back to a world where rain is just weather, not a reminder of a mafia boss who kept me in the dark to keep me alive. But then I stop. The cold metal of the gate is under my hand. I realize that the safe version of me died months ago. I've been marked by his world. I've seen the way he looks when he's unguarded, and I've felt the way he holds me like I'm the only thing keeping him on this earth. "You said the exit isn't a door," I whisper into the wind, not sure if he can even hear me. It's a cliff. I realize I've been standing on the edge of that cliff since the moment I said yes. The road behind the gate looks empty. It looks lonely. And for a girl who's been lonely her whole life, the danger behind me starts to feel a lot more like home than the freedom in front of me. I turn around. He's standing there without the umbrella now. He must have dropped it or just stopped caring about the cold. His hair is plastered to his forehead, and his black suit, the one that probably costs more than my entire college tuition, is heavy, dark, and dripping. He looks at me the same way he did that very first morning in the library. He isn't moving. He isn't ordering me back. He isn't using the voice of a man who controls an empire. He's just waiting, watching me. Waiting to see if I'm actually going to disappear into the dark. In that moment, everything I learned in my theology classes comes rushing back to me. I spent years studying sacrifice, faith, and the nature of the soul, but I realize now that I never actually understood those things until I looked at this man. I always thought love was supposed to be the shelter from the storm. I thought it was the place where you go to be safe. But as I start walking back toward him, each step heavy and loud on the wet stone driveway, I finally get it. Love isn't the shelter. Love is the storm you decide to walk into because staying dry feels like dying. I stop 2 inches from him. I can see the rain trapped in his eyelashes and the way his jaw is locked tight. I can see the terror he's trying to hide behind that mafia boss mask. He's terrified I'm going to leave, and I'm terrified I'm going to stay. We are 2 people who have been broken in different ways, standing in the middle of a war we didn't start. You have 1 chance to explain everything, I say. My voice is shaking, but it's there. Not just the business, not just Jaiwan. I want the truth, Mi-sung. I want the part of you that you think I'm too weak to see. He nods once slowly. He doesn't make a promise he can't keep. He just reaches out and finally, carefully takes my hand. His skin is freezing, but the grip is solid. I realize then that I made my decision a long time ago. It wasn't tonight. It wasn't the day I said yes to a marriage without a ring. It was that Tuesday in October, on a dirty floor in the East Wing, when a man who had everything decided that being with me was more important than being powerful. This love isn't a fairy tale. It's a trade. It costs you the version of yourself that was still safe. It costs you the exit. And as the mansion lights burn amber behind him, I know I'm never walking through that gate. I'm staying right here. As the story closes, think about Sarah's journey. What would you have done if you were in her shoes? Or in his? Did Mi-sung finally prove he was worth her love, or was it already too late for them? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know your take on her choices and his. And before you go, subscribe and like this video, because the next story is going to blow your mind. Also, tell me where you're watching from, so I know how far our romance adventures have reached.